continuation of deployment of materials in Edo, Anambra, Kogi, Zamfara, and of course other states as well. Do you think logistics will not be a challenge tomorrow? What do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Ijoma, for having me on, and good afternoon, viewers. If I heard you correctly, Ijoma, you're asking if INEC is looking ready with the deployment of materials, right?
That's right. Continue.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's very exciting to see the level of preparations we are having now. It's really heartening, really a pleasure to see that we are making progress. And all hopes seem to be very high that there are not going to be any hiccups. There are no chances for postponement, whether on a general scale or even in some particular states. You know, reports that we've been seeing in the media, like in yours, for instance, you know, have taken us around the country. And from what we've seen, really, it's commendable that preparations are on. Everything is frenetic. And at the end of the day, we expect to see a very successful governorship election coming on the heels of the presidential. Okay, it's all right that the presidential has been done and dusted, even if there are legal fireworks still on. And it's also okay that the governorship election is proceeding as scheduled. What it means is that at the end of the day, we should be able to beat our chest and say that, yes, we have achieved another milestone in the development of our democracy. And I do not see any reason for now why there should be any hiccup along the way. Yeah. Yes, there are pockets of violence. Violence is reported in Akwa Ibom. Very unfortunate, very sad. But it's also gratifying that the commissioner has said that it's not going to be a problem at the end of the day. And again, it's going to lead us to the point we've been making, you know, the weather-beating point about the need for politicians not to be necessarily die-hearted about political contestation. Yeah, it's a point that we have made and we'll continue to make it, but it's already becoming tiring. I think what we need to do now is to proceed and probably admonish the law enforcement agents to be much more potent, you know, to activate the law and probably make some few examples of these political contestants, these political helmsmen who are probably triggering this violence in sections of the country. Because yes, it is possible that they will probably not go to commit this act of violence themselves, but you know, their supporters will have looked at their body language and move on to town. It's not possible to continue like this. And if we do not set the example, if we continue to pretend as if man is rather ruling as against the law, I'm afraid we will not be able to make progress at the end of the day. Examples have to be set so that people can be deterred, okay, in the future. That has to be done as soon as possible. I've had my colleague over there made a point on the nature of the Nigerian politics. Very correct, very apt point. You know, the political power, okay, public office, you know, is a source of prebendal income in this country. And that's why you see people are very vociferous about public office. There are a couple of things that we can do to stop this. One is to make public offices less attractive. And how do we do this, really? If the state is made to be more functional at the level of provision of social infrastructures, for social and physical infrastructure, if utilities and facilities are provided for the people, better health facilities, better educational opportunities and all of that, okay, then the populace will begin to think less of the power elite as a source of help. The situation we are witnessing now is a situation where the power elite, including especially the politician, do everything as much as possible. They do everything within their power, legally and illegally, to get power so that they can have access to public wealth. You know, we're not generalizing, really. There are still some of them who are speak and span, some of them that we can still isolate as good. But on a major level, on a general note, that is the culture that we are in. So, because the state is failing at the level of the provision of infrastructure, the power elite
we need to get to Gombe State, where our correspondent
so access to public wealth and come in between the state and the people.
I'll just crave your indulgence. Well, let's get to Gombe.
This cannot be acceptable.
Let's get to Gombe State to find out what's going on there, what the mood is like amongst the people. Our correspondent Vincent Dature is standing by.
is the conference hall where we put all our sensitive materials that we're trying to convey down to the RAC centers. So this morning, these are some of the sensitive materials that are still here. Some of them have been conveyed already to some RAs. So very soon, in less than 30 minutes, all of these sensitive materials you are seeing will be out of here to the RAC centers.
Right now, I am at the State Specialist Hospital, Gombe, and I want to enter in and feel the pulse of some of the patients that are there. How are they thinking? What are their views about the elections tomorrow?
A lot of people here want to vote, but we can't because we are sick and we can't go out. I think a special center should be established for us and our relatives so that we can vote. And this polling unit issue, if a special center is established, they should overrule the polling unit issue and consider us so that we can vote. Some people here are from Nafada, Funakai, a lot of different local governments. So if a special center is formed, I think we can vote from here, and our vote will count as citizens of this country.
I really want to express myself due to my present condition right now, and tomorrow is going to be election, and how I wish there will be a polling unit in the hospital so that people in here will have the opportunity and the right to vote for whom they want. And seriously, I really wish the government will pay more attention to the health sector, and it will make the state go good.
As far as election 2 is concerned, the patients are Nigerians, they are citizens. The staff equally, they are citizens. They are supposed to have opportunity to cast their votes. But because the hospital is not a polling unit, so you see, like right now, today, I have like 200 patients, or to be precise, 224 patients on admission. And each of these patients is being taken care of by a relative. So if you double the number, it will give you like 448. And then some patients may have more than one relative attached to them. So if you add up the number, you see you're taking about more than 500 people not having the opportunity to go out and cast their votes because they are held in the hospital. Equally, if you put it up, I have like 800 staff, and at any particular shift, you have more than 400 staff available in the hospital. So if you add up this number, you see that about 1,000 people are not having the opportunity to go and cast their votes. So this means a lot.
Campaigns over and preparation for the elections completed. It is expected that tomorrow, electorates will be queuing at the polling units to choose for the candidate or vote the candidate of their choices. Reports indicate that about 32 individuals are contesting for the #1 seat in Gombe State, and 253 are contesting for the 24th seat in the State House of Assembly elections. Their fate will be determined tomorrow by the electorate at the polling units. From Gombe, Vincent Danturi, Channels Television.
Indeed, our correspondent there, Vincent Danturi, talking
right.
about... I like the fact that he went to the hospitals to find out what the polls is like in the hospital.
Because sometimes people say you've collected your PVC, you didn't show up. So perhaps, you know, they were talking about wanting a polling unit in the hospital there, but, you know, logistics, we don't know how that will work out.
But is this something that INEC should have considered? I mean, putting a polling unit at least in one of the major hospitals in each of the states.
But you remember that INEC has always said that these are facilities they borrow just for this purpose. It's not as if they're there all year round. So I don't know, again, what the logistics cost will be if to put one in everybody. It's something they can consider. What do you think? Yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Blake?
If we go digital, if you use technology, then it
you know,
I mean, we have to discuss this thing. I left the other time, I went back home and said, is it really possible? Can we really go digital? And between then and now, we've had discussions, and we think we should go digital.
Yeah, but INEC will always say to you that it is not something they can just do. The law has to be amended, and it has to be in legislation for it to happen.
Yes, which is why we all have to be very, very concerned about this particular election. Because to change the constitution or do anything meaningful, there are laws that have been put in place that we can't change. You need 80% of the National Assembly to okay it. You need 24 national state assemblies to okay it. Now, if the ruling party, as it were, if they do get that kind of numbers, then we should be able to agitate that, yeah, technology is the way to go. If they now say, no, that's not the way to go, then we need to ask, why is it not the way to go?
Yeah, but in the meantime,
yes.
I mean, that is a long...
Okay, in the meantime, there is nothing we can do because people in the hospital are coming from various polling units, and we don't yet have what it takes to pull together people that come from... Even the single polling units, we're still having difficulties. It could open up another source of irregularities. So I think we should just let it be. A number of people have also traveled out of the country, relocated. So, I mean, so many ups and downs that we just have to let that go for now until we go digital.
Okay, let's see if we can get back to Dr. Adeni. Dr. Adeni, 32 people contesting for the #1 seat in Gombe State, 326 contesting for 24 seats in the State Assembly. Now, earlier you mentioned a couple of states where it looked as if the tensions were getting really high. There are those who thought that after the presidential elections, these issues of tension would have come down and then the pressure would have reduced to a large extent. Why do you think it wasn't so?
Thanks again, Inota. I think it's very straightforward, and I've heard a lot of commentators alluding to these as well. What it is that, governorship election, we know, it's closer to the people, it's closer to the locals. It's a kind of subnational kind of government, they are more accessible ordinarily, and they are more responsible, they are much more alert to the needs, the yearnings and aspirations of the locals. So you expect that attention will be much more critical in that area, and if we thought earlier on that the tension will reduce after the presidential, well, it's okay to think rightly so, because the presidential is central, and because of the enormous powers of the president, we expect that it was right for us to have that expectation that going down to the governorship, it should have reduced. But again, it's also okay to understand that it can actually be difficult because for us to expect a reduced tension, political scientists have told us that all politics are local, and that is to say that, the closer you bring politics to the people, the more interested they are, the more agitated they are, and the more concerned they are about the determination of their future. But like we've also argued severally, there's no pre-electionary stage that there won't be anxieties. There will be concerns, there will be fears, But what we need to do is for all the agencies to be alert to their responsibilities. We have made the point severally again that the electoral process is a multi-stakeholder process. INEC will play its role. The security agencies will also have to be alert. They will also have to be conscientious, But when we have infiltration, when we have a pollution and the perversion of the process, then we begin to have problem. I think the problem we really have is the absence of some kind of sense of commitment, national spirit, the absence of patriotism, of nationalism. People just believe that, the country, it's not for me to bring about redemption. It's not for me to contribute from my own little corner. All I need to get is to eke out my own part from this country called Nigeria. I'm not going to bail the cat. That's the wrong perception we all have, really. At the end of the day, 10 years, 20 years afterwards, we begin to see that, the judgment we made 10, 20 years backward is already affecting us because we have failed to make a rightful contribution from our own little corner. Perhaps it's high time we began to talk to ourselves much more passionately, not at the level of just blabber-mouthing or mouthing it, but at the level of commitment on the side of leadership. Because if those underneath, if those below are not seeing genuine commitment from the top, most of the time they are likely not going to be motivated. You know, motivation is very important, and who is going to provide this? Leadership. The point has also been made severally that there's nothing fundamentally wrong about Nigeria as a nation. There's nothing wrong with our democratic system. You know, India is much more larger than us, you know, in terms of population, and they are making progress. Canada can be more complicated. The US is also very complicated, but they are making progress. They are succeeding in terms of progress at the level of election, and there's nothing stopping us as a result from also registering successes, you know, in our electionary process. Okay, all we need to do, like we have said, is for all hands to be on deck, for all pieces in the jigsaw to be properly fixed, and then success will be ours at the end of the day in no time. Okay,
Dr. Adeni, I mean, it's the eve of the elections, and you had talked about everybody playing their role, including INEC. Now, we know there were a lot of disruptions during the presidential elections a couple of weeks ago, and the INEC chairman had said that in areas where perhaps their staff were under duress, such results, certificates of return will not be given in those kinds of areas. And the debate has already been started. People are saying, do they have the power to do that? So should they do that, and do they have the power to do that, in your own opinion?
Very well, Ijoma. I think I actually like the tone with which the INEC chairman spoke. You know, I don't forget that we made a point earlier that one of our weaknesses is that people like to take advantage of the law. People commit crime because there's no deterrence. People are not afraid of law enforcement agencies because they just they just have this feeling that they can circumvent processes, or that they can find their way, or that because they are Mr. A, Mr. B, or Mr. C, and because they are big men, they can pay their way through. Okay, there's this impunity, high level of impunity. So for the chairman of INEC to come and talk so transiently and talk so seriously, that's very heartening, really. But it should not go beyond talking. You know, he cannot apprehend. He probably cannot prosecute. All he needs to do is for the security agencies to take it over from where the INEC chairman is stopping, okay, and get the culprits apprehended. You know, examples have to be shown, Ijoma. You know, we have to see these things, our system working. You know, the laws are there, the system is there, the processes are there. You know, the criminal justice process is complete. The problem is just activation. And if the chairman is saying, look, he's saying that, see, this is my corner, okay, and these are things that you can do that can infringe on the electoral process. And if you do this, if you commit this and this is what's going to be done. He's not going to do it himself, but the onus is on the security agencies to take it from where the INEC chairman is stopping. Okay, the warning is actually coming at a good time. Tomorrow is a very critical election too. We cannot afford to fail. We've made a success largely out of the presidential election. Tomorrow is another one, and there's no reason for us to fail. So if the INEC chairman is working towards it very seriously, at the level of commitment, at the level of underpinning philosophy, I think it's actually highly welcome. But let other stakeholders in the process be as responsive as well. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Dubele, you talked about earlier about something that had to do like consequence management system, as in you're rewarded if you do good, you're punished if you do bad. Now, that statement by the INEC chairman, you think it's timely?
At this point, I would say yes. But the question is, what do people understand by it? And how are we going to act on it? It's one thing for you to say something and your body language and antecedents to betray what you're saying. I think communication has to be consistent and constant. You have to say the same thing repeatedly in the same direction.
Okay, we're going to take a break, but think about this. Some people are concerned about INEC not having the powers to do that. I mean, withhold the return.
And they're already seeing legislation down the road.
And all of that. So some people are looking at, okay, we'll go to court to clarify it. But we'll look at that when we come back from this break.